All right, Chris, a battle of 0-3 teams. It's somebody's get-right game this weekend when the Minnesota Vikings come into town to take on the Carolina Panthers, Chris.
Listen,
Someone's get-right game.
two teams with a donut and 3 as their record. Somebody is going to get rid of that donut, and somebody is still going to have the donut.
Yeah, exactly. I do love donuts, but watch this game end in tie just because it's meant to be.
Let's true. Go. That could happen too.
We're going to talk to Tarik Cohen. We're going to break down the injuries for the Carolina Panthers. Let's get this thing started.
The state of North Carolina covers 53,000 square miles. It is the habitat of the feared Carolina Panthers. Get dialed in, Panthers fans, for an in-depth look at your team. Exclusive interviews, locker room insight. Let's huddle up for Panthers Playbook. Here are your hosts, Dennis Cox and Chris Lea.
Welcome back to another episode of Panthers Playbook. That's Chris Lea, Dennis Cox here with you. Before we get into our conversation with Tarik Cohen, exclusive one-on-one with the former North Carolina A&T product, the former Pro Bowl and All-Pro kick returner. We have a conversation. Chris, you had a conversation with him. Before we get to that conversation and before we get to the injury breakdowns, a reminder, everyone, subscribe. Let us know your thoughts and comments in the comment section down below here on YouTube, or subscribe on your favorite podcast platform. But let's get right into some of the big things this coming Sunday for the Carolina Panthers. One, Chris, a lot of injuries, including a defense is getting banged up. The strength of the team is a mash unit right now. Is Bryce Young going to play? I hope so. But like we mentioned, it's somebody's get-right game against the Minnesota Vikings. Both these teams are 0-3. The Vikings can score. They can't stop anybody. The Panthers can't score, but their defense is usually pretty good until late in games because they get worn down. Something's got to give.
Yeah, and I would say normally in this situation, I would definitely 100% be on the side of the Panthers, right? Because we've seen that the defense so far has been bend but don't break. You might be able to get it down close to the red zone. You might be able to get it in the red zone, but for the most part, they're holding you to field goals. It's typically later on in games where they're giving up the touchdowns. But now with the Vikings, I mean, first off, the Panthers haven't seen a wide receiver this season like Justin Jefferson yet.
Yeah.
And you don't have J.C. Horn. You don't have Xavier Woods. That could equal touchdowns.
Oh, yeah.
And for as much as people like to brag on Kirk Cousins is a pretty good quarterback. Now, he's not Patrick Mahomes.
No.
But he's also probably better than Derek Carr.
Oh, yeah. The dude can put up a lot of numbers. That's the thing. The guy puts up a lot of numbers.
He could put up some numbers now, and we've seen the last couple times the Vikings have played the Panthers anyway. Kirk Cousins have had some really good games anyway. So with the secondary issues, and now we're hearing that possible 4 to 6 weeks out for Xavier Woods with the hamstring injury. Of course, J.C. Horn is out. Sam Franklin is the next guy up.
Don't
Dante
forget
Jackson.
Oh, don't forget, CJ Henderson left last game against the Seattle Seahawks with an ankle injury, only played about 10 plays, never came back. So there's questions about his status.
With that, Dante Jackson keeps getting burnt every week. I'm just not sure. I'm just not sure with this one for the Panthers. Now, if the defense can come alive like they've done before, maybe that front seven gets a nice push, gets at Kirk Cousins, makes him feel a little bit uncomfortable. Maybe they don't get as many touchdowns because if this is a shootout, as you said, it's not going to go good for the Panthers. But if they can hold them to field goals, and use the offense, and the offense can start, actually scoring on their own, then this is a good chance for the Panthers to get their first win of the season.
About the front seven, Frankie Luvu left last game late in the first half with a hip injury, did not return against the Seahawks. Hopefully, according to a couple people, looks like he hopefully should be able to play this coming Sunday. But how much is that hip going to hamper him? Because he's their most versatile guy in the front seven. We see him playing off ball. We see him on the edge, rushing up the middle, dropping in coverage. So there's going to be a lot more stress on that front seven. And we also know that Brian Burns has been dealing with a little bit of an ankle injury himself too. So what was the strength of this team going in to the season, and what really has been the strength of this team through the first 3 games of the year is the defense is just it's a shell of itself now. We talked about the secondary being one of the strongest points of the team going into the season if everyone stayed healthy. You're down without your number one corner. You're down without your your top safeties. And then also one of your backup corners is also out, possibly as well as CJ Henderson. So you might be down to corners number 2 and 4 starting this coming Sunday for against the Minnesota Vikings team, with a guy like you mentioned, with Justin Jefferson, who's one of, if not the best wide receiver in the entire league. Have fun.
And you didn't even mention the linebackers at that point.
Oh, yeah,
either.
like Shaq Thompson.
With Shaq Thompson not being there.
Yep.
And then we don't know what's going on with Frankie Luvu, even though some of the reports are saying they're expecting him to play.
Yep.
Because they're also going to be important when it comes down to pass rushing and also covering running backs and tight ends. So, if the secondary has their hands full with Justin Jefferson and crew, and you got tight ends and running backs that are running out open out of the backfield for the Vikings, it could be a very long day, because right now, yes, Deion Jones has a great interception, but do we trust him for a full game? There's a reason why he was cut and then brought back.
Exactly.
You
got to go against a guy like
Hill. Can he do it for a full game?
Can you guard guys like TJ Hockenson, that tight end going down the middle of the field? It's going to be a lot of stress on this defense. Why it's important for the offense to alleviate some of that stress, Chris. This is where the question of, all right, is Bryce Young going to be healthy to play? Now, a little note, kind of something that flew under the radar on Tuesday. We're recording this on Wednesday. Something that flew a little bit under the radar on Tuesday for Panthers fans. Jake Luton, who was with the team during training camp, got signed to the practice squad when Bryce Young went down with an injury. I'll get there, Chris. Don't worry, Chris. We're going to get there. But Jake Luton signed with the practice squad when Bryce Young went down with the injury just this past week. Got elevated from the practice squad for the game against the Seattle Seahawks to back up Andy Dalton. Well, on Tuesday, because Derek Carr dealing with the shoulder injury for the New Orleans Saints, he's going to miss some time. They needed a backup quarterback. They signed Jake Luton. They being the Saints. They signed Jake Luton to their active roster from the Panthers practice squad. So right now, the Panthers, their quarterbacks, the way they're looking at it, it's just Dalton and it's Young. That's it, which tells me I think that Bryce is on, especially since they filled that roster spot, that practice squad roster spot, with a wide receiver, not another quarterback. That tells me Bryce Young is in line to play this coming weekend, but still, man, is he going to be healthy enough to play? And how effective can he be? We actually saw the playbook kind of open up a little bit.
Yeah.
Which kind of irked me a little bit, because my question was, why are you trusting Andy Dalton to open up the playbook a little bit and not Bryce Young to do these things?
Well,
that was my big question. Like, you trusted Andy Dalton to throw the ball 58 times. Would you actually ever trust Bryce Young to throw the ball 58 times? Because if you trust your backup to do that, you better trust your starter to do that. I don't care if he's a rookie and it's just only a couple starts into the game. If you could open up the playbook a little bit more and, like, we actually see some concepts to stretch the ball a little bit down the field. I know DJ Chark was actually kind of more healthy than we've seen him so far this season, obviously. But I want to see them do that with Bryce Young. No more of this, 5 yards and underneath stuff. No, stretch the ball with Bryce Young. That's the only way he's going to learn. He's going to make mistakes. You got to live with it, but it's the only way he can grow and develop is by getting out there on the field and doing those things. Show that you trust him. Show that he could do that.
So a couple things with that. The Falcons and the Saints have a better secondary than the Seahawks do.
By far.
So that, I think that also played into it. And then we heard Frank Reich tell us about that 47-yard touchdown to DJ Chark. That was actually Parks Frazier and Thomas Brown. They saw something in film. They installed that last week, and they felt like that was something that could get them some chunk yards. They were right, got them chunk yards and a touchdown last week, which is something that they saw. So that brings a point that I want to come back to.
Okay.
And then also you mentioned it as well. DJ Chark right now pretty much is their best vertical threat. And so he looked the best that he only played in the Saints game, didn't really look his best. He looked his best last week. So maybe there's more. And let's just get the numbers. Mike Kay from the Charlotte Observer, he put this out there. The Vikings defense, they're 27th in yards allowed per game. They allow 382 yards. They're 26th in points allowed per game. They allow 27 points. They're tied for 25th in passing yards allowed, 261. 25th in interception rate, 0.95. So they don't really get interceptions. They don't really turn over the ball. And 19th in third down conversion allowed at 40%. So this could potentially look good for the Carolina Panthers offense. And you mentioned at the top of the show as a potentially get right game. But if it's Bryce Young, does he have the time to throw the ball? That's been one thing. I think Andy Dalton probably had a little bit more time in the Seahawks game than what Bryce Young has had in his first 2 games. And then also, does he trust to his receivers to get open down the field? He hasn't played with a fully healthy Chark yet. So we'll see if that ends up working out. Remember, that was the connection in training camp. Everybody was applauding. It was Bryce Young and Chark. It was like, oh my God, that could be crazy. So now if Bryce Young does play, is that something that could work out? So that's basically what I'll be looking for in this game, to see if that ends up happening. I want to get back to my prior point, though, when I brought up the play install from Parks Frazier and Thomas Brown. A lot of people have been questioning Frank Reich and his play calling.
I'm one of them.
Questioning, should he let Thomas Brown take the reins when it comes down to calling the plays?
I mean, let the OC be the OC?
And it's crazy that one of the most explosive plays that we've seen so far this season from the Carolina Panthers, actually the most explosive play we've seen from the Carolina Panthers, was not even a Frank Reich call. It was something that Thomas Brown and Parks Frazier, your passing game coordinator and your offensive coordinator, came up with. I think if we don't see improvement, especially against this Vikings defense, the cries got to get louder. It's going to be time for Frank Reich to pass it on, because, bro, the Panthers offense doesn't look the way that it was advertised.
Nope.
And it could be so much better than what it is right now.
Bo, by far. A lot of questions right now. Is Frank Reich the right coach to be leading Bryce Young and developing him right now in terms of a play caller? Major question mark. Because right now, at this moment, in this moment in time, 3 games in, he's not. He's just not. Not right now. Now, I'm not saying he can't be, but there's nothing right now that shows any sort of promise that he will be.
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing that's frustrating to a lot of Carolina Panthers fans right now. It's like, hey, you know what? If we're 0-3, but we're in tight games and showing progress and, like, the culture's developing and all this kind of stuff, and we see progress going forward, like we saw with Dan Campbell a couple years ago with the Detroit Lions. Yeah, they were losing some games, but you could tell things were building. They're going in the right direction. Ain't nothing about this Panthers team that says we're going in the right direction right now. Zero. Or if there is some, it's very little. I will say
that it's also not necessarily it's not necessarily like a dumpster fire either.
It's not yet.
It's not there yet. Now, offense doesn't look the way that we want it to look, but it's not a dumpster fire. So that's the part where it's like, for me, I'm not, one of these people. You see people on Twitter saying, if we go 0-4, Frank Reich has to be on the hot seat. I'm nowhere near that.
Not there yet.
Nowhere near that, because also we have seen some improvement. If you look at their offensive numbers, they've gone up by game. They just haven't won yet. And so now it's overcoming protection issues, overcoming injuries, and seeing where they can get to from there.
Maybe we can use Tariq Cohen. Tariq Cohen. I almost said Tariq Hill. Tariq Hill would be great. But Tariq Cohen, who's on the Carolina Panthers practice squad. Chris, you had a conversation with him recently about getting back into the NFL, overcoming his injuries, getting back to the Carolina Panthers, his home state team, because we love the state of North Carolina. He's from the state of North Carolina. So let's jump into that conversation, Tarik Cohen.
All right, joining us now on Panthers Playbook, Tarik Cohen. Of course, you guys may remember him from Bunn High School. He's from the area, but I actually had a chance to cover him when I was at WXI in Greensboro. It's towards the end of his career at A&T. And Tariq, I always tell people, like, when I was over at WXI in Greensboro, that you were literally the most electric player that I covered from any college that was over there. And it's good to see somebody who's from North Carolina end up with a professional North Carolina team. I know that you've been asked that question so much, but, like, now that you're more than a week into it, being in that stadium every day and that's your job, what does that feel like, and how does it feel to have your professional career take you there to Charlotte?
It feels great. It's still, I still treat it as if I were someone else with the same respect and the same, accountability to myself, seeing that it is a job. They want me to come in here and do my best. But it feels great to be home. More people that I know personally can come to the games. And, people that I know personally who are big-time Panthers fans can now root for me, in a good way.
For sure. I wanted to ask you this, though, like with I know that you're feeling like a lot of love from this, with all the hometown connections and all that. But I know like the last couple of years were so rough from you from a professional and a personal standpoint in so many different ways. how has the love that you've been getting over the last week or so from this signing, how has it helped to ease things a little bit with the different things you kind of went through over the last couple of years?
The love is great. It's been a little bit overwhelming, because the goals I set in my mind are completely different from, the general public. They see me getting signed, to the practice squad as a great thing. Everybody's so elated. Me, I just see it as, a stepping stone, getting back to the player and person I want to be, eventually.
Let's get specifically into the injuries, ACL tear, and then of course you have the Achilles tear. When you came back, you said that you felt like you were just maybe a week and a half away from game shape, and now we're around that time. How do you feel? Do you feel like the old Tariq that could still do the backflips and catching 2 footballs at the same time, who could, juke everybody out on the field and literally reverse course and go get a touchdown? Or do you still have to work back into some of that shape? Where do you feel like you are now?
I'm feeling good. I'm getting more and more into practice. I'm starting to, run those quick change of direction routes, get a better feeling, just getting acquainted with the coaches, letting the coaching staff see where I'm at and see the stuff that I can do. And I'm feeling really confident about where I'm at, and I'm just ready to get back out there and get under those lights.
You mentioned some of the goals that you have for yourself and the things that people don't see. I know that like you had a lot of success over in Chicago, but what are some of the things that you want to try to display on the field or try to do that maybe you didn't get a chance to show in Chicago or do there that maybe you have a chance to do once you get called up either at the Panthers or elsewhere?
I really want to do some of the same things that I was doing in Chicago, be a statement player, a staple player inside the offense, a guy that everybody has a game plan for, every defense, knowing that I'm going to be, on the field at whatever position. You can never know, and just be a factor also in special teams as well.
I remember, reading about some of your comments about Chris Tabor, how he was with you in Chicago and you enjoyed being there. Any other connections that you have there on the team that's here right now? Like, how's it been since you've been on the roster and kind of acclimating yourself with the guys that's there?
Yeah, Coach Deuce Staley, he worked me out. He actually ran my pro day in Greensboro. And then they came back a week later and also worked me out again. So then we always stayed in contact after that. And, throughout him being with Philly, with the Lions, and then coming here to the Panthers, I feel like, our stories are kind of similar in our journey of the reason why he came to the Panthers and the same reason, that I'm here, to be close to family, but to still, be at such a high level on the professional level.
Yeah, that's awesome. And it's good that you still have those connections that's there. As far as like the offense that's there, where do you see yourself potentially fitting in if you are ended up called up at some point during the season?
I see myself fitting in anywhere. I like to catch the ball up the backfield, run the ball, special teams, anywhere the coach wants to put me. I feel like that's my role, to just be ready and be available for whatever the coach has in mind.
You're really fast and super athletic. As far as that speed, are you still working to get the speed back, or is the speed still there?
Oh, the speed's still there. I feel like more so now it's just about getting back in shape. The lungs. I feel like body is good physically. It's more so about getting the lungs and just getting acquainted to the team.
I don't want to get like way too personal, but I do want to ask you as far as like the last couple years where you weren't in the league. You had the injuries, and then you lost 2 brothers at the same, months apart from each other, right? And a lot of like tragic stuff, and you're still trying to find your way. What kept you going during those times? I know that there's a lot of like tough things that can happen to people, but as far as like something that can maybe uplift somebody else who's listening to this, what kept Tariq Cohen going through that dark period?
I really feel like nothing kept me going. I really stopped everything. I stopped playing football. I had retired. Basically, in my mind, I had retired. And then what brought me back, I would say, is really the love for my girlfriend and the love for my son. And then just, letting everything run its course. I feel like the pain and the grievance, I just let it run its course on me. And then, when I started seeing light at the end of the tunnel, started feeling good body-wise, mentally, emotionally, I feel like I can get back out there and whip myself back into shape and help a team out.
I love that honesty, because a lot of folks would have said like, no, I was, God or just whatever. But you're honest, like, nah, I was pretty much done. Yeah. What did you see yourself doing? Moving on from football.
I really didn't see myself around the game anymore. I like, seeing it from a distance, being a fan. It was like, I don't know. I went to a Panthers preseason game and I just never been in the stands. Seeing the game from a different view was kind of cool to see. And I was going to a lot of high school football games, a lot of my little cousins and stuff, watching them play and just giving, wisdom here and there. I didn't really want to be the guy, who tried to be around football, and overstay their welcome. So I was just, taking it one day at a time and just living the dad life.
Yeah, that's awesome. Speaking of that, the dad life and everything, how do you think that's changed your outlook on life? I know I have two kids myself. One was born in 2017, and one is 11 months, about to turn a year old pretty soon. And it really has kind of changed the way that I kind of go about my career. And now that you have a kid that can look at you in a certain type of way, how does that change your outlook on life and your career?
I feel like it just lets me be more honest. I carry myself like with 100% honesty now, like not scared to make a mistake. If I made a mistake, I'm a man enough to, let somebody know. Say if I run the wrong route in practice, I'll just be like, yeah, I messed up there. Or if I don't know something, I'll complete, but I don't know what this is. Could you help me with this? And then anything like as far as like the younger guys, they need any information or anything, whether it's football or life, I'm completely honest with them and just, candid and just letting them know about my mistakes so it can help the next person.
You went to North Carolina A&T. That's how I met you there. And since you've been gone, they moved to the Big South and then the CAA. And recently I've seen Jermaine Martin and a few others kind of speak out, against the university and talking about, the things that they're kind of unhappy with as far as moving up in conferences so fast. Do you have any thoughts about that? Do you think they should have left the MEAC, or are you fine with moving up? Do you see the bigger picture for it, or do you just feel like, they kind of they should go back to where they were before? What are your thoughts on everything?
I'm not against anything they're doing. I just wish they would have stayed. I personally wish they would have stayed in the MEAC. I feel like, outside looking in, we all think about just the culture, just the fun that we had in those MEAC games. So we don't really know the grand scheme of things. So we just speak from, our viewpoint. But, I love playing in the MEAC, and it got me to where I am today. And that's why I wish, the players that's there now could experience what we experienced. So I feel like, everybody's going to have their own different experiences, though. So I'm not against anything they're doing. I just, I like how my experience went at A&T.
Yeah, I feel you on that. And then finally, I remember, hearing from you in the locker room when you first got signed with the Panthers, and they were saying that you were living in High Point at the time. I'm from High Point. And so I'm just kind of imagining you got to drive, hour and 15 minutes every day. Is that a lot of thinking time for you? And how's that commute been for you every day going back and forth?
It's been smooth, really. No bad weather, no bad accidents. Got to get up early, but I think it helps me with like a routine. It helps you get in a routine. Like, you can't stay up too late. You have to get your sleep, and then you know what time you got to wake up, and like you just get a specific, strict routine. And, I for the 2 years of my life when I wasn't in football, I was just waking up whenever, just doing whatever. So I feel like it's helping me get back into that, NFL meeting this time, practicing this time, like getting into that military and discipline.
If you could build your life for the next year in the NFL, what does it look like a year from now?
Just making an impact on this team, winning comeback player of the year, and just helping out the young guys just through my experiences, or not even people on the team, just in the community, just helping out anybody who wants to hear my story and listen to it and take pieces and bits from it and makes their life better.
It absolutely can happen. Tariq Cohen, we're all cheering for you, of course. Here in the Raleigh area. I know that they're cheering for you in the Greensboro area, of course, where you made your name at A&T, and I know that there are going to be new people cheering for you in Charlotte and all over the Carolinas. Thank you so much for joining us. It's great to hear from you, and great to see you with the Carolina Panthers for sure.
Oh, yeah, thank you. I appreciate you. Good talking to you.
All right, Chris, as we wrap things up here, great conversation there that you had with Tarik Cohen. I'm excited to see him back in the NFL, but I really want to see him play on a Sunday. I think they can use him in some very creative and different ways. Even if it's just with kick and punt returns, I want to see that guy back on the field.
I'm just glad that he's back right mentally. I mean, he told us right here that he basically had given up on the game. And so I'm glad that the NFL has this talent back. And then also like his personal life, losing two brothers his twin brother and a younger brother, like within, I think, 13 months of each other.
Yeah.
That's got to be hard, as well as you're trying to come back from injury. So glad that he's getting all the love that he's getting right now, and I hope that he does get a chance to make a difference on Sundays for the Carolina Panthers.
Final note on Tarik Cohen. Mike Glennon, who played at NC State, played a long time in the NFL, said there are 3 guys with legit game-changing speed he ever played with in the NFL. 1, Tyreek Hill. 2, Antonio Brown. 3, Tarik Cohen.
Crazy.
That's high praise. That's some
very high
praise. That's going to wrap things up here for Panthers Playbook. Make sure you download us on your favorite podcast platform. Subscribe here on YouTube. Leave comments as well. Hit the notification bell. Smash that subscribe button. We'll interact with you. We'll have another episode for you on Sunday after the Panthers hopefully win against the Minnesota Vikings. Chris, you're going to be there at Bank of America Stadium. We'll have locker rooms, interviews as well. You're going to, again, be there on site. We'll have another episode for you guys right after the game on Sunday. Till then, be good.